everybody, I'm Stephanie from Gathered in the Kitchen, and today I'm going to teach you how to do the paint pour technique, which is exactly what I've done on this dresser here. So I actually found this dresser on the side of the road. It really wasn't in bad shape, but I knew I wanted to change it up and have a little fun with it. So what I've done on the drawer faces is I've done a paint pour technique, and I'm going to teach you guys exactly how to do that. And make sure you stay tuned at the end of the video where I go over tips and tricks and things I learned along the way. Everybody, I'm Stephanie from Gathered in the Kitchen, and if you guys like to follow me, you know that my house was struck by lightning and caught fire, and most of my furniture has been deemed a total loss. However, being the true DIYer like myself, I just physically could not pitch my furniture. Plus, I happened to find this dresser on the side of the road and knew that it would go great with my other dresser that I took from my home. So I'm working with some dressers that are a French provincial style. They're kind of fancy with some decorative edges and everything, and I need to put these dressers into a bedroom that all three of my kids are sharing at the time being due to our fire. So we are currently in an apartment and all three kids are sharing a bedroom. So the way I would do my daughter's furniture is definitely very different than how I would do my two boys' furniture. So I need to complement these pieces of furniture to all work cohesively together for girls and boys. So what I'm about to do is very different from my normal traditional farmhousey Victorian style that I normally go to. I like a lot of whites and grays. Today I'm going to be totally changing it up and being the fun mom. So I'm going to be doing kind of like a tie-dye, wavy looking dresser for my kids. It's basically called a paint pour technique. And what I've done to start off with was I painted my entire dresser, actually both of them, in Dixie Belle's mineral paint drop cloth. So let me bring that up so you guys can see that. So it's drop cloth and it's basically like a very creamy light white color. I absolutely love it. It's one of my go-to colors because again it's very farmhousey and neutral, and I like to decorate my furniture in neutral colors so then I can have wild accents like in pillows and stuff like that. But so I've painted the dressers this color. Now for this technique that I'm going to do on these drawers, I am using a combination of a bunch of colors. So I'm using the drop cloth color, like I had said, and I'm also using a few other colors. They're all Dixie Belle Paint Company. I'm using a dusty blue, which honestly reminds me of like the 1980s and early 90s blue that probably a lot of your moms, or at least mine, decorated her house with. Another color I'm using is called Manatee Gray. And this is just kind of like a little bit darker gray than I normally would go with, but I absolutely love it on furniture. It looks great. Walls, I don't know if I would go this dark because I feel like it would bring the room too dark, but with furniture, it's a great accent color. and looks really great with these blues and teals. The next one I'm doing is called Antebellum Blue, and you guys saw this over on one of my last tutorial videos where I completely sealed the smoke and stain damage on some shelves that I had. So you can check that one out too. But this is the color. It's a beautiful, rich, tealy blue color. And then I'm also using a color that I cannot remember the name of, but it's a Bear paint that I had mixed at Home Depot actually. This was one of the colors that we did in my daughter's room right before the fire. So I have a lot of paint. We only used it as an accent wall in her room. So I've got a lot of paint and I just want to use it up. I love mixing paint colors. So what I've done is I've cut several water bottles. You guys can see them like this. What I did was I added, for every 1 teaspoon of paint, solid paint, I added a ½ teaspoon of water. Now, and then I mixed it all up in these water bottles that I broke down, just because I don't have any containers right now because of the fire. So I've just mixed it. I've made it really runny and very liquidy so it will spread, because for this technique you really need a liquidy, runny type liquid in order to get the desired look that you want to go for. So what I did was I actually tested it out on this drawer yesterday, but my paint was way too thick. So I just brushed it completely solid. As you guys can see, there's a couple different paint streak colors in there. But you don't need to paint your base. I've tested this out on some other things now, and I didn't paint my base prior, and it all worked out great. So what I'm gonna do, or what I've done, is I've taken 3M blue painter's tape, and because I don't really like messy edges, I've taped off all of the edges of my drawer. I then put a piece of paper, like packing paper, in here and taped it in, just so when the paint does drip, it's not getting all in the bottom of my drawer and I have an extra big mess. So I've got this. Then on the floor, I have, let me move this down so you guys can see. I've got cardboard down here, and I'm gonna leave the camera down this way so you guys can see. And then, because this is not my real home, and I don't want to be in trouble, I've got a plastic baggie as well as some more packing paper on top of this cardboard. So we're going to zoom this in and show you guys how I did this paint pour technique. So it doesn't matter what color you start with for your paint, but because I've let this sit for a while now, I'm just going to remix it, and you guys can see how runny this paint is. So it looks very watery, and that's exactly the consistency you want to go with. So kind of like milk. Think of milk like a whole milk almost, not necessarily like a skim milk. Think of whole milk. So I've stirred it, and I've got a spoon, and what I'm going to do is just completely start dripping it on my furniture, making swirls and swiggles and dots. There's no rhyme or reason to this. And this is actually a really fun project that you could involve the kids in, depending on how messy you allow your house to be. So I've finished the first color, and that was my Bear color for my daughter's room. Like I said, I don't remember the name of it. Next, and I just have a paper towel, and I'm wiping off my spoon. I'm gonna go ahead and do the dusty blue. This is that kind of 80s, 90s color to me. It's got a really pretty gray tint to it, but it still pulls a lot of blue. And I'm just making swirls all over. Okay. You just want to make sure you get it all over your piece, because when we go to do the tilting technique, you guys will see why we want to make sure we have paint covering every spot. So I've got the garage door is open, so I've got a little fuzzy that flew in. Okay, there's that. I'm gonna do a little more right there. But there's no rhyme or reason to the way that you do this. Just have fun with it. So wipe off my spoon again. Throw that one down. Now I'm going to do Manatee Gray. Stir it up just a little bit. and pour. One thing I am trying to do is make sure I get paint in areas that I didn't get paint previously with a different color. So you kind of just, it kind of looks like abstract art. You know that art that you go and see at the museum and you're like, that's odd. This is the exact kind of paint we're doing right now. But I promise this is such a fun and funky way to spruce up a piece. But I'm only doing it on the drawer, so it's still safe and not like super, super crazy. So it's gotta be a little conservative for my very traditional and boring decorating methods. Okay, next I'm going to do the antebellum blue. I'm not going to do as much of this because I kind of want this one to be more of a special accent color because it is so dark. I want it to just kind of be like, have a few specks here and there of this. But it's such a beautiful color, but because it is dark, I don't want to overdo it. So you guys can see that this is super easy. Like, honestly, anybody can do this. It's not just the people who like to do crafts. Okay, wipe off my spoon again. Another great thing about Dixie Belle's paint, it's non-toxic and has no VOCs, and this is actually one of our household spoons. So, yes, I am using that. I will wash it good. Okay, so now this is the drop cloth. This color I want to do a little bit more of because this is the main color of my dresser. So, I just really want to have this piece accented with the blues, not be overpowered by the blues, and I still want the pretty drop cloth creamy color to be the main focus though within the blues. So now this really is not a lot of paint that I'm using. I know people are probably wondering how much paint did you use? What I did was, it's really honestly just 2 teaspoons of paint per container that I've got here, and you can thin out your paint more depending on the type of paint you're using. So I'm mostly using chalk paint. The one that's from Behr is obviously not a chalk paint, that's just a latex paint. But that one didn't need as much thinning out compared to the chalk paint, so I didn't use as much water there. But you can make your paint thinner by just adding more water, and it will go a lot farther if you don't want to waste a lot of paint. Almost done here. I just want to make sure I've got enough in some of the areas where it may be hard to drip to. Okay. Sometimes the edges and the corners have a little bit difficulty being covered. Okay, there we go. Now for the fun part. This is messy, so that's why I have the ground completely covered with cardboard, a plastic bag, and then packing paper, just so it's not all over the plastic. So what I'm gonna do is lift this up and just start dripping. You don't want it to completely drip off the edge a ton because you want to save that paint to make it go all directions. So you're basically just gonna move this piece around until the paint drips in every direction on this dresser drawer. I know it's kind of hard to see, and I apologize about that. I don't really have the best setup here to record videos very well anymore, but I'm just gonna let it drip. Now, what I would recommend is your final drip direction. Make sure you do that the same way on every drawer. So however you end, finish every drawer that way, so you don't have some drawers going this way, some drawers going this way with the paint direction. So that's just what I would recommend. And once this is done dripping, and you can move it around if you need to, sometimes you do need to, we will just let it dry. And because it's a lot of paint, it will take a little longer to dry than a normal paint job, like if you're using chalk paint, where chalk paint usually dries very, very quickly. I'll let it finish out this way. So, because I've got a big white spot there, I want that to become a little more blue. Kind of tap my drawer. There we go. It's starting to drip. Hold it this way. Tilt it and shake. It's a good arm workout. So you guys can hear that excess paint dripping off. I'm gonna go ahead and just let that finish all the way. So one of the things, if you do try this method, I would really practice on something prior to doing it on the piece that you actually want to finalize. So I had a little bit of difficulty with this yesterday, like I said. So I took an old cabinet door that, yes, I took from my previous kitchen back in North Carolina when my husband rebuilt the cabinet, rebuilt the whole kitchen. I hoarded those oak cabinet doors and kept them, and then we moved them all the way here to Wisconsin, and now they've survived a fire with mold all over them. However, I know how to clean, and using my Shackley Basic G, so I've completely cleaned them, and I'm reusing them for craft projects now. So I tested it out doing this method on one of the doors earlier this morning and absolutely loved it. You can kind of play with how much paint you pour, like if you do thicker areas or if you do thinner lines, just it will give you a different look. So just pick what is your favorite preference. But definitely the thinner lines was mine. And same with my husband. He kind of thought it looked a little more artistic that way. But because I also had this painted, there are a few areas that I see that have not been completely covered by paint, and that's okay because I actually had it painted blue. Remember the drawer face was blue from my mistake earlier? So actually, you know what, let's go back and say I recommend painting your drawer faces one of the colors that you're doing for your paint pour, or mix a couple of them together so you kind of have like a mixed color look, so it's not just one in case there's areas that you have a more difficult time getting the paint to go over during the paint pour. So then you don't see the bare wood or whatever color the dresser was or whatever you're doing prior to the paint pour. So this is, I don't want to, I'm going to take the camera down. I don't want it to. Let's go ahead. I'm not going to leave it down like this. I'm going to lift it back up, but I'm going to take the camera. Sorry guys, again, I don't have all of my fancy equipment here. Problem with having your house catch on fire by lightning. So here you can see what it looks like. So right there I've got some paint that didn't cover, but over here it just looks so cool and unique to me. I think my kids are really gonna like this, especially because this is not something I would traditionally do because I'm a little more boring. So this dresser I got for free. So I didn't feel as guilty or bad doing something funky with it in case I want to paint over it again if I don't like it. So sometimes I tend to not want to do that to pieces I've paid decent money for, just because I want to do it one time and not do multiple paint jobs to a piece of furniture. So anyway, this is how you guys do the paint pour. I'm really excited about this method. I think it looks really cool and super funky. And if you guys are looking for a little color addition in some of your rooms, this is a great way to go. So I'm gonna let that dry, and I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 drawers total for that one, and then another 5 drawers for my tall boy dresser. There's one missing. I bought it that way. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you guys check back to see some of my other Dixie Belle paint tutorial videos that I've done, specifically those shelves like I mentioned earlier, as well as head on over to the blog at gatheredinthekitchen.com. I've got a lot of great tutorials over there. I'm not always the best at getting videos up, but make sure you guys like this video and subscribe, and leave some comments below to tell me if you liked this method, if you would do it at your house, or would you be a little too scared to do it. I can't wait to hear from you guys. Have a great day. Bye. sure you leave a thumbs up. I'd love to hear from you guys. Leave a comment too. But so let's go over some of the tips and tricks I learned along the way. I have 4 of them. So first off being, take it the same color order for each drawer. So if you're going to start with the darker color and work your way down, or however you choose to do it, just make sure you do the same color order each time. I found that on the drawers that I did that, I liked them the best because they looked the most similar then, where some of my drawers I didn't do the same color order and they look a little different just simply because of the way that the paint layered. Tip number 2, if you need to, take a paintbrush, a small thin paintbrush, and help wipe off any excess paint that may be dripping in areas that you don't want it to drip in. Number 3, should you have that paint drip, make sure you have some low grit sandpaper to come back afterwards and just sand off any rough areas or raised areas or any drip marks. Tip number 4, this is a personal preference to me, was I liked it to make sure that I let my paint drip off in the same direction. So if I had my drawer horizontal like this, I made sure that every drawer was this way once I was dripping off the paint. So all the paint marks would run vertical. If you want, you can do all of your paint pours this way and have your drawers standing up vertical and your paint will run horizontal. You can choose however you'd like it best. I just personally preferred to have all of my paint pours running down the same way. So hopefully those are some good tips for you guys. I'd love to see what you guys do, so make sure you visit me over on the blog at Gathered in the Kitchen and leave your pictures, as well as subscribing to my channel, and let me know what you guys would like to do next time or see me do next time. Bye guys, have a great day.